Because when I get to heaven, I want the Lord to say, well done, my good and faithful servant. Well done, my daughter Tiana, you know. And I think sometimes when we try to do things our way and we wanting the penthouse and wanting to work corporate, but God's like, no, I have you here. I want you here. I think that to me is success. And I've seen people successful and they're not making a lot out of and these are also business owners, and they're not making they're making it, but the point that I'm trying to make is that there's no big return on investment, but it's the impact that you make in people's lives. So success to me is it's a multifaceted answer. Success to me is, I had one of my managers go through the leadership training, and we've seen a change in just her demeanor, the way that she speaks, the way that she speaks about herself. And she wrote my mom and I email saying, thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this high road, lower leadership because of X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And she was on the verge of eviction, and the Lord blessed her family with a new home. So that to me is success. And that has nothing to do with the business. That has nothing to do with the service that we're providing here. But that to me is success, because it's my impact on someone.
Welcome back to another episode of High Value Discussions. In this episode, we have the honor of sitting down with a woman whose life is dedicated to serving others, creating positive change, and nurturing the next generation of leaders. My guest is an assistant program director for Evergreen Adult Development Center. She works to ensure that individuals with development disabilities are supported, empowered, and given the tools they need to live fulfilling lives. She is known for someone who creates spaces where people can flourish, whether it's guiding individuals toward independence or teaching them how to navigate the challenges of life. She's making sure that on her watch, no one gets left behind. Her impact stretches far beyond her professional role. She's a devoted mother, a loving wife, and someone who embodies what it means to be a true woman of faith. She also plays a pivotal role in RC MAYO Inc. My guest and her loved ones are helping the lives of youth in their community. RC MAYO Inc. is about more than just giving kids a chance. It's about inspiring them to break barriers and overall to embrace their true purpose. My guest believes in the power of mentorship, the importance of community involvement, and the value of being a role model for those who are still finding their way. And as much as she is giving to others, there's a quiet strength in her that comes from the deep faith she holds. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Tiana Musika.
I was so excited to do the podcast, and I really am excited. I think there was just so many things that kind of like led up to this, that even like coming into today, I was like, dang, like I hella want to counsel. Like I don't feel like my mind is right. And I think that's just because like there's just been like a lot of transition, not only in the business, but in our personal life. Like my father-in-law had passed away about 2 months ago. And there was just a bunch of stuff going on like around at the same time. So I think that was one aspect, but hearing you talk and, you know, kind of like checking me, right? You're kind of checking me. The first thought that came to my mind was, I think in situations like that where I'm able to command a room, or like I'm networking with someone. And so I feel like there's like a connection there. I feel like because I'm in control of that, and right now I'm not in control, and so it's very hard for me because you're in control, because you're the podcaster and I'm not in control. And so I think that's why it's like very hard, because like I'm usually able to engage and then direct the conversation, and I have a goal of what I want to achieve in that conversation or a message or something. And so, but that's something that I'm learning on, you know, like God's working on me, right? Have 2 ears to listen and 1 mouth to speak. So this is but this is also super new for me, like super new. So yeah, so those are the two thoughts that first came to my mind when you talked about.
But I also have a feeling that you like putting yourself in discomfort. You like challenging yourself.
I do.
And I feel like this is one of those things where you're way out of your comfort zone.
Super. Can you tell? Take a shot of that. I am. Fake it till you make it. I'm just kidding. I love it. I love a good challenge. I do. I love a good challenge because I think John Maxwell says it like you're always going to be a life learner. I'm probably totally butchering in the way that he says it. He's a lot more eloquent in the way that he probably said it. So you probably have to edit that. But I love a good challenge. I love putting. I try to make it a goal each year to do something that's a little outside of my comfort zone, and whether that's just doing a project or taking on a task that I probably wouldn't do. It's just one of those internal dialogues that I have with myself. I don't ever kind of write it on paper, or plaster it on my wall. It's just one of those internal dialogues where it's more for me than it is for someone else.
Were you like that when you were younger, when it comes to almost like finding that new level of discomfort?
Yes and no. Being the eldest of 4 siblings, I think the eldest are held to a higher standard. And I think specifically in the island culture, it's just one of those things. And because my dad's from Guam, my mom's Filipino. And so in those cultures, it's, siblings, right? And there's not really like a hierarchy, but it's usually like the older sister. So in the Filipino culture, it's like the ate usually, which is the eldest sister, always kind of takes on the load. And then being like the firstborn girl. So I'm the firstborn girl of the firstborn girl of the firstborn girl. So my grandmother was the firstborn. My mom was the firstborn, and then I'm the firstborn. And so when I had Tua, my baby, he kind of broke that. So thank God, right? Because like we're strong women. But going back to your question, I would say it was about 50-50. I was like the black sheep in my family in the sense that I did everything wrong. So when we would have family meetings, like my parents would be like, "This is what you don't do. don't do what your sister did." So Lonnie, my sister, whom you've had on the podcast before, she was the model of what to do, being obedient, listen to what mom and dad said. So I just totally just veered away on my own doing, and so I think. For me, it's about 50-50. I think I always had it in me. I just think that because I wasn't walking with the Lord, it wasn't used in the capacity like I am now, Yeah. And so I think growing up, you're kind of finding your identity, and then you have influences from like the world, school, friends. And then if it's not rooted in God, right? Then, you can veer away. And I had great parents. Like for the record, I had great parents. Like I came from a 2-parent household. My mom and dad have a strong marriage. They're going on like over 25 years of marriage.
Shout out.
So like, it's not that I came from like a broken home. I just, on my own doing, I fell in love with the world, Yeah. So I think I always had it in me. I just don't think it was managed properly. And so being where I am now, I have wisdom now. I have life now.
do you, I feel like you wouldn't take it any other way though, right? Oh. Because I feel like those mistakes, it's so odd where chaos like molds us into to better people,
For sure.
And I feel like I have 3 younger siblings. I would rather make me all the mistakes and then witness that so they realize and look at me like, oh, I'm not going to do what he did. Like I would love to be that representation. Unfortunately, it was almost like I witnessed it in my young age where it's like, oh, I saw all the grown men in my life messing up, and I kind of took that into my day-to-day. It was like, oh, I just will do the complete opposite of what they do. And hopefully things turn out pretty well.
My sister says, Tiana, is it Tiana ran so that we can walk? Oh. Is it like, is that the saying? Or is it reverse?
No, pretty much.
Tiana walked so that we can run. It's one or the other, but she always says that, like, like in terms of like how you grew up. I mean, like I started drinking and smoking at like a young age, super not proud of it. I fell into just, in love with the world. I battled a little bit with like just less of the flesh. I ran away from home. Yeah. And so there's like a lot of things to get me to where I am now.
Something that me and my dear sister Kalani, she would talk very highly of you. And a
Aw.
conversation that I remember specifically that she was saying is, she was saying, my sister does a lot. She was like, I think I do a lot, but when I'm with my sister and growing up with my sister, she does a lot. Like she wears a lot of hats and she makes it look very, very easy. So, and then seeing, this is the second time you and I are like together.
Yeah. It's
Like,
the second time meeting you.
yeah.
Actually.
So like
yeah.
the first time was very like quick, like good 30, 45 minutes maybe, but it was like, it made a mark on me because I'm like, I already like love Kalani. And then I'm meeting, like, I met your little brother at Church of Redemption. And it's like, I am meeting slowly like your whole family bit by bit. And I'm like, man, they must have had a very powerful upbringing because honestly, it really comes from the parents. That's what
I'm
I
gonna
love.
cry.
I love meeting respectable like children. And I'm like, where are your parents? Who are your parents?
Yeah.
I want to meet the parents who molded you guys.
For
You know
sure.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So I love seeing the different frequencies you guys are all, but they're all great.
Yeah.
You know, and then she also said like she's like a natural born leader. But the more that I meet your siblings, I'm like, it's almost like all of you guys are natural born leaders.
For sure.
But does that come from your upbringing? Because like you said, in the beginning, it wasn't always that way. But when was a time when you kind of woke up and you're like, I need to make adjustments here?
So multi-layered answer. My parents. So just a little bit of history because I think it's important to give credit and give honor where honor is due. So my dad came from. So his testimony is he came from LA to San Francisco. He met my mom in the dorms, and then
Hell
got
yeah.
us. My mom and dad, they came from two different upbringings. My mom was kind of raised in the business, and so my late grandmother, she passed away in January 2021. She had this facility. She had one more in downtown San Jose that served adults with special needs. She had 10 care homes, transportation company. Over her tenure, she got her master's in public health. She was a nurse. She really did it all. And so my mom kind of growing up in the business, and this is all that she knew. I mean, she came from humble beginnings too. So a lot of what you see now is because it took someone's sacrifice. It took someone's seed. It took someone's obedience to get to where we are now. You know, a lot of people see the fruit, but they don't know where that fruit came from. And so with my parents, I mean, I want to make it super clear. Like, my parents were super good, like, growing up. I mean, a lot of my rebellion was me being rebellious, you know, and willingly being rebellious, you know. So I pray for my kids. I pray for my kids to break that generational curse because I was rebellious and I intentionally was rebellious, you know. I mean, my parents came from, like, and they're first generation Christian. So, like, when we were growing up, like, my parents were super heavy into, like, marriage encounters. They were, we went to Jubilee, growing up, and we spent a good portion of our beginning there. And then, you know, we kind of went around to different churches, different seasons in our life as a family. But we started off at Jubilee. And so my parents were really heavy in ministry. They were under the leadership of Pastor Randy Estrada and May Estrada. And so they ventured out into Livermore. Tri-Valley Jubilee, and so my parents, so we have family core values. It's love God, love people, live a life of impact, live a life of sacrifice, and live a life of integrity. We have those same core values here at the company, but it's having those core values instilled in us at a young age. Like, I remember, like, if we were disrespectful to my mom, my dad would be like, "What's the one thing I'm not going to let you do?" And it was, we're not going to disrespect mom. Whether we did it in front of him or away from him, that was like the number one rule. And he's like, "You're not going to disrespect me in my house," you know? And so, like, when you understand kingdom, right, it's like you don't mess with the king, right? And so my parents being first generation Christians, but also, like, my parents got their degrees. My mom in psychology, my dad in sociology. So my dad was worked for Santa Clara County as a oh my gosh, he was I think a corrections officer. I could be wrong. He totally, like, got mad at me the other day. So, but them again being first generation Christian, but also being first generation Christian, but also having that educational background, it really helped them to teach and model for us what it's like to have good open communication. So for example, like if we had arguments as siblings, they would sit us down. We would have a family meeting, which was really like a family Bible study, and they would sit us down and be like, what's the issue? But even to now, like we still have regular family meetings. We still have regular, family conversations. We still have like family Bible studies. So that's still super, super important to us. And I think that's one thing that a lot of families don't do, which we try to do with our kids, is to have that communication. And so I think why my siblings and I are such good, strong leaders innately is because my parents instilled that into us at a young age. They always spoke life to us. They always spoke over us. No parent is perfect. And of course there's things that, they fail in. My husband and I fail in, but in general, I believe by the grace of God, my parents did their best, and I don't hold anything against them. I mean, I think for what they were given, my parents did a great job raising each and every one of us. And so you see that in the conversations and in you meeting my siblings and I. I think there's only one sibling you haven't met.
Yes, I
Rain
know.
Mayo Jr., who's a UC Davis football player. But he's super sweet. I mean, he's literally a splitting image of my dad, and he's a gentle giant. He's and his testimony is super beautiful as well. So the long answer to that is, yeah, I think my parents did a really great job raising us and instilling those core values, 5. And this is where we are now. So yeah, and shout out to my sister. I mean, like, for speaking so highly of me. She's so sweet. Because sometimes it goes unnoticed because, they're always like, big sis, do this, and big sis, what about this? And
Why is that, do you think? Like, why? Like, it's funny because family is a unit.
Yeah.
Like, we're supposed to stick together, even though we come from the same background, even though we've like grew up in the same roof. It's like, we need to praise each other. We need to help each other out. It's a unit here. I remember when I was much younger, I would be almost like disrespectful to my siblings. Like, we would fight and like fight, like get into arguments. Like I remember my brother, like we were playing with Nerf guns back when we were kids, and he like threw it at my face, and I grabbed like a big one and I threw it at him. Like, we would hurt each other.
Oh my God.
But
did
like,
Lonnie tell you I threw a book at her face?
I think I heard something like that.
And she pissed me off so much. Like, there was like a cut. And she's like, you threw a book at my face. And I was like, okay. I was so mad.
But
like, the Lord is doing the work within me. He's delivering me from rage. But like, I remember like, she was like being like a little smart aleck. And she's like, we're sitting across from the room, and she's like, and I was like, oh yeah? And I like chucked the book at her, and she started bleeding. Mom was like, look what you did to your sister. And I was like, no one saw her.
Yeah.
No one saw her. Okay. Okay.
But isn't it so funny, like how the older you get, the more it's almost like you appreciate your siblings. And it's like you couldn't even think about even like hurting them one single bit. It's almost like even if something happens, you want to give like a critical critique. It's like a necessary critique where it's like, hey, you made a little mess up, but it's like, how can we clean it up here? But back in the day, it's like you almost didn't appreciate it. Even like my parents, when I got a little older, I even told my mom, I was like, Mom, when I was little, we didn't like talk. Like talk, like getting to really, really know each other talk.
I really think it's worth noting. My mom and I growing up, we did not have a good relationship. I remember I remember fighting her. And like, who am I, right? Like, I'm rebellious and she's this like wonderful woman, and like I remember just fighting, and I don't know what it was. We just didn't clash. And so for like a lot of my adolescent years, like we just didn't connect. It took me obviously having to go through some things. I remember I ran away from home and came back, and the Lord did a work within me. I gave my life really to the Lord. I found out that I was pregnant with my son, Tua. I gave my life to the Lord. And after that, I mean, my relationship with my mom, I mean, she's like my best friend. Like I like stalk her on location. I'm like, girl, what are you doing there without me? Are you serious? So like we have a great relationship, but but and the reason why I mention this is because people look at my mom and I now and they see, how do you guys work together? We get a lot of questions on how do you guys work together? How do you keep that balance really well? And I tell everyone, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 o'clock, she's my boss. Regardless of how I feel, if I disagree with her, she's still my boss. She's still the appointed head. Now after that, she's my kid's grandmother, and she's my mom, and she's my best friend.
Yes.
And so our different layers of working together, and I understand that it's super rare. Like my sister and I try to work with each other. It's so healthy for us to not work with each other, right? Like it just, and I say that jokingly, but like to be super serious, like it's special. Daniel, no, tell her, Lonnie. But like, even if you were to get us together, like we would both attest, like it's just safer for it's not only safer for her and for me, but it keeps our relationship healthy.
I like how you guys know that though.
No, like we can even call her right now and she will say the same thing. And like you don't even have to tell her I'm in the room. Like she'll say the same thing. But yes, no, but yes, but growing up, I think like and I think a lot of that just like and if you think about it, like we all come from the same soil, and we extract from our parents what is meaningful to us, and then we go out to our friends, to our communities, to our realms of influence, and then they have influence on us and we have influence on them. And so when we come back, I think it's easier for us because we have experience, we have wisdom, we have different conversations outside of our family, right? And then we're exposed to different things. So then when we do come together as a family, we're like, hey sis, you know, I think Lonnie, you know, but Lonnie and I, like, we have a different relationship because she's very critical towards me, I feel like. But she also has done a really good job, like, nicely saying things to me. And then vice versa. Like, I have to really be mindful when I'm talking to my sister. Like, I have to, like, armor up.
I feel like you need that balance, though. You know?
Yeah.
I feel like it's a good, like, yin and yang kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, you need both. You know, like I love when my family gives me like that genuine love, but I also love that technical critique also.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
even like sometimes you don't want to hear it. It's essential. You need it.
Oh no, for sure. And then like I'll like walk away like very stink face. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that. And then like, you know, I have time to process my day. Like I'm like in the shower. I'm like, oh, that's what they meant. That's so sweet. And I'll like message them, thanks so much for that word, or that was really encouraging. But yeah,
I feel like in today's age, people are stressing of what they want to do with their life.
Yeah.
When you were growing up, especially when all of like the hiccups and the ups and the downs when you were growing up, did you have kind of an inclination that you were going to be involved in leadership? What did you actually want to pursue? And like, what caught your interest growing up?
Yeah. Yes and no. Honestly, I thought my life was going to be, I thought I was going to work at a corporate job. I wanted the penthouse, and I just want, and whether I had kids or not, like that wasn't really my goal. I just knew that I wanted to work a corporate job and be in a position of leadership. I didn't know I was going to be a mom of two, married. And I definitely don't have a penthouse. I definitely don't have a penthouse. And that's okay, because what's important to me in life is having a good marriage. I see a lot of divorce rates. I see a lot of people that like say they have a good marriage and then they don't. So having a really strong marriage is really important to me. And then having kids, healthy kids that like love the Lord, you know, and we can only do so much by the grace of God, but raising kids, you know, and I was having this conversation with somebody. I said, you know, having kids is such a blessing because it's God giving us a child to steward. Because at the end of the day, it's his children, and our job is to steward them, you know. And when you understand like the biology and the science of having kids, which I don't do a deep study on, I just know enough to I just know enough to know enough. Like kids come, and you know, the Bible says every good gift comes from above. And you know, I say I don't want to have kids past 30, but ultimately it's up to the Lord, right? And so Tua came at an appointed time. Ofa, my second boy, came in at an point in time. Now, I could have had many kids before them, but God specifically gave them to my husband and I at an appointed time, to me at an appointed time, right?
Yeah.
And so our family at an appointed time. So I think it's really beautiful because God's timing was just so perfect, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so going back to the question, I think it was always innate within me. And so like having to want that penthouse and work a corporate job, it just, you know, and I don't know if that was just along the way, like I could have done, but, you know, but I went a different route. And I don't question. I know that God has me here, and I don't question his timing, and I don't question, is this really for me?
Yeah.
Because I know that this is where God has me, you know? So, you know, maybe I'll ask him one day, but, you know, I just trust in the Lord, you know? There's a scripture, I think it was Proverbs 16. There's many plans in a man's heart, but God directs his steps, you know? So even though that's maybe what I wanted to do in life, maybe God all along had this plan for me. So being where I am now, you know, I'm the assistant program director for Evergreen. You know, my grandma started the company 46 years ago. We're going to celebrate 46 years, bro.
That's crazy.
May 1st, 46 years in just 2 weeks.
That is insane.
Yeah, only by the grace of God, right? So this was my first job right out of high school. I kind of grew up in the business. I saw my parents with their care homes. My dad, group homes. My parents had 2 group homes, one for youth, 2 for youth. And then my grandma had 10 care homes, like I had said. And then she had 2 businesses like this. So like 2 that you saw today, coming and interrupting, like that was me growing up. You know, I was just around it. And so, cause I was exposed to it, it's all that I knew. You know, and so when I went to college, I realized, wow, I'm so fortunate because there's a lot of people that don't have a family business and don't have that segue. So I got my degree in psychology. I graduated literally during COVID. Like our graduation was like, you click your name.
That's crazy.
And congratulations. Right?
I also think it's very powerful when like a business gets passed down from generation after generation.
Yeah.
But it's funny because there are also those statistics out there where a business does get transferred and passed down to a family, but sometimes they don't have those ethics, those morals, those principles to be able to withstand and sustain a business.
Yeah.
So when you first got brought into it, I mean, yes, you were molded into it. You saw like the day to day, but you still needed to accumulate a skill set or skill sets to be able to do your job effectively. What were some of the things that you noticed that you needed to work on to make sure that you did your job the best you can?
Wow, that's a great question. I don't know how to answer that other than to give you a like internal answer that I have thought about for myself. Prior to me being full-fledged in the business, I was a San Jose State student. I also, aside from this, just for fun as like just a hobby, and to help me stay active, I teach Pilates, like hot Pilates on the side. And so in my prime, and I know Coach Bobby Bluford was also paramount in this. In my prime, this is when like I just had to like shortly after, like I would I taught a lot of classes. I taught a lot of Pilates classes and yoga strength, which is like yoga with weights. Having that experience, so I had opportunities, and this was all really only by the grace of God, really. So he gets all the glory through all this, but I worked a corporate job, and I worked at the 5th floor in the Samsung Semiconductor building off North First Street. Huge. I mean, like when I say like I wanted to like work corporate, I was like, I'm in. I was like, this is so cool. Like I had like my own little badge, and like, you know, we were like in the cafeteria, and I just was and but like side tangent, like when you get in positions like that, God reveals vision to you, and he reveals a glimpse of what it can look like and whatever that it is. And so it wasn't until after my season at Samsung was done, and I worked for really great companies along the way. I worked for a bar studio owner who she was I think she like danced for the Timberwolves, and her husband was like I think worked for like the 49ers. So like and having come from great bosses, and seeing their leadership styles, that helped me build my leadership style today. And those are just like the two that come off of my head. But I worked for many other, companies during teaching Pilates that helped me now. So that's one thing. The second thing is having a great mentor. I think in my generation, we don't take time to sit down with mentors. And so when my husband and I were dating, I was like, I have to go get, I was like, I have a conversation with my mentor later. And he was like, a mentor? What's that? And I was like, you don't know what a mentor is? I was like, ... And so, I'm all, bring him in here. No, I'm all, have him sit so he can show his
give
side.
Give him a call.
And so, but really like having a mentor. And so in that season in my life, I was part of a prophetic ministry. And so I had an intercession mentor. And so she taught me like just praying, speaking in tongues, how to war and really how to pray. And so he was like, you have a mentor? And I was like, well, yeah, like, you should have mentors for like different things. Like I have like a business mentor, and so our mentor now, we share the same mentor. And he is a certified John Maxwell leadership, coach, I believe. And so I consult with him a lot, with just business and just wisdom on how to execute leadership, and then vision, and then also, what is the vision for my team, right? You got to meet a little bit of my team. And so, reinforcing our core values and then reinforcing, the culture that we want is super important. But that's because I have a stronger mentor, and you can't take someone where you've never been, and so I always look for someone who's stronger than me, and not just, I'm not talking about physically stronger, but someone who has more wisdom than me, someone that has more experience than me, because you can really learn a lot. And I think that's something that my generation, and I say this very unbiasedly, doesn't. When's the last time like we sat at someone's feet and just listened? Even with like my parents, my parents or my husband is my husband's and I mentor. Like and I know sometimes sometimes people think, well, isn't that crossing a line? And I'm like, well, no, because like my husband and I live such different lives than other people. To work together in a company, that's paralleled with my parents. We come from two different backgrounds, two different cultures, and so that was like my parents. And to be honest, my life really emulates my parents, right? Yeah. And my mom and dad always say, you guys are us like 20 years ago. And I'm like, so that's a good standard. And like, now we have something to look forward to. But yeah.
Sometimes we get imposter syndrome, when entering into a field, or sometimes when we think it's a little bit too much, we get a little bit overwhelmed. And sometimes when we are trying to learn the craft, we get intimidated because it's a lot of information. And it's like, I don't think I can do this. Yeah. When people want to get into real estate, they have to learn about the laws, all the paperwork, etc. And they're like, I don't know if I can do this. When people want to be a police officers, they deal with all the stress that they've never dealt with before. It's like, I don't know if I can do this.
I think underqualification is like a big thing, because I felt like that too. But I had to remember God put me in the position by his grace, and period. Yeah. That's it, and God will put you in places and in front of people that no man can do.
But when you were in here, there was a role. This is a family name, where it's like, oh, I can't mess up when I'm in these doors. I have to hold myself at a very, very high standard. And I need to make sure that the people around here, we have to keep the culture tight.
When my grandma passed away, it was kind of abrupt. She passed away like around the holidays, and I think it was like early January where she actually passed. And I was talking to my husband at the time. That's why like these milestones are so important to me. When my grandma passed away, there wasn't a pass down. I was here, and I knew that I had to fulfill a role in shoes. And so when my grandma passed away, my mom stepped up. She took my grandma's position, and then I took my mom's position. And I knew that I had to fulfill a role. And it wasn't I just knew I had to fill a role, and that's it. I don't want to add or take away from it. I knew that I had to fulfill a role. And so during that transition, it was a learning lesson for my mom and I. I mean, we were grieving my grandmother, which we didn't really grieve because I think innately in us, we were like, it's a business and there's lives that are impacted by our decisions. And so my mom and I mean, like, we joke about it, but it's like, we didn't really have time to mourn because we just knew we had to put on a business hat. Yeah. And so our mourning process was we would go through files and we'd be like, oh my gosh, this is her handwriting. And then like reading her handwriting, like we can hear her voice and we're like, oh my gosh. And then we would have a moment, like we would cry and then business would go on. And so I don't know. And honestly, I don't even know if I would call it imposter syndrome. I know that like there was moments where like I felt like, am I even qualified for this? And so, I'd go back to my mentor and, and then I would hear like a word of prophecy that was super encouraging that like reminded me, okay, Tiana, I'm meant to be here. Tiana, you are meant to be here. And so I struggled with it a little bit, but like I said, I think I knew I had to fulfill a role, and I had just gotten my degree in psychology, and I came in, growing up in the business, but also with my education now and seeing what was being shared at the university, it gave me a very fresh, aggressive approach to what I wanted to see change in the services that we offer here. So I'm probably like the youngest one in the game, or maybe one of the youngest ones in the game, but I take a very passionate, aggressive approach. And when I say aggressive, I'm passionate about what I do. I understand that. I understand that working in this industry isn't for a lot of people, and even when I hire people, I always tell everyone, this is not a job. I'm looking for people that emulate our core values as a company, not only as a company, but also as a family, but also people that understand I want every individual who comes to our day program to leave with an experience. Yeah. And so I call everyone to a higher standard. And so I'm still in that. And to be super transparent, like we're still in that transition phase where we're breaking off old mindsets of like, this is how things used to be done. And then breaking that mindset and breaking that culture of this is what we need to see in the future. And this is the service and this is the quality of service that I need to see and want to see and will see for the future.
For people who don't know, what is the mission here at Evergreen? And for people who are very unaware, what is Evergreen?
So Evergreen Adult Development Center, we're a day program for adults with special needs, intellectual disability and developmental disability. We've been in operation for 46 years, founded by my grandmother, Diana Corpus. And we run a multifaceted program. We have a on-site community program, and then we have a community integration program, and then we have our own transportation service. So we're very well-rounded here. The mission, honestly, my vision and my mission for Evergreen is exactly what I said. I want everyone to come who comes to our doors to leave with an experience. Every one of the people that come here, I believe, are so special and so unique. And I'm not just saying that like to sound cliche, but I really truly believe that everyone that is here, whether they can advocate for themselves or not, they have a voice, they have breath in their lungs, and that's more than enough meaning to know that they have purpose here on this earth. And so I encourage and I train my staff to the best of my ability to teach them that I want everyone who comes here, because our mantra here is a family that cares. And not only are we a family business, but I want everyone who comes here to feel like they're part of a family. I just toured someone today, and she's leaving her day program that she's been with for over 14 years and coming here. And one of the things that I told her and her care provider was, hey, like when you're coming here to a family that cares, and and I believe it by faith.
When my first job right out of high school, I was a paraeducator.
Oh,
So
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, dope.
Yeah. I was doing that for, I wouldn't say two and a half
I
years.
can see that.
Yeah. It was honestly, just like that, what you said, experience,
Yeah.
you know, but I also wanted to leave an imprint on the people that I was working with.
Yes.
You know, and
Yeah.
that was very important because not only did I leave an imprint, but they left an imprint on me.
Yeah, and so shout out to John Maxwell, because I pull a lot of what I train our staff in and our managers. So they actually go through a John Maxwell training once a year. Just with timing and flexibility, it's just really hard to get everyone, because a lot of them do work second jobs and whatnot. So I take everyone through a leadership training once a year, and then we do like a team building. But all of our managers, they go through a leadership training with a certified John Maxwell coach. And so they just got done a few weeks ago doing the high road, low road leadership training. And it was like a few months, I think it was like a 3 months course or 4 months course.
Yeah.
Started in January. And they did hybrid low road leadership every week. And so they read a chapter. Last year, I forget what book, I think they went through the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. But I'm so heavy because I'm so heavy on John. I mean, one of my mentors, my mentor right now, he gave me a John Maxwell Bible signed by John Maxwell.
That's crazy.
And I mean, just there's so many good nuggets and wisdom keys that we can pull from. Yeah. And I when you're rooted and anchored, and I'm not saying that we're perfect at it. I mean, it's tough, right? It's I'm human. It's a lot, but anchoring yourself really to the Lord, and then having principles that align with God's word, you know. And to be fair, I mean, there's a lot of successful companies that aren't Christian based, but they use principles from the Bible.
Yes.
And the reason why they're so successful is because God is a God of order, and He's a God of kingdom, and He's a God who is, I mean, He's a God of order.
Yes.
and principles. So when you take God's principles and you bring it to life in your company and your business and your marriage and your family, whether you're a Christian saved or not, God will always honor you. Reap what you sow, you sow what you reap.
Going into like leadership, you were saying that your sister Kalani was saying that you had to walk in order for them to run.
Yeah.
So that's the role of a leader, though. So there's also that term out there where it's like leaders eat last, because you want to make sure that people around you are eating first. The leaders is making sure that everybody's okay. Wolves rove around in packs, and the alpha is always in the back. He's always walking, making sure that everybody's walking in the same path. He's making sure that nobody drifts away. Everybody's perfectly aligned and they're going where they need to go. It's a very big role as a leader. Some people take that as a lot of pressure. Some people embrace that. How do you embrace it?
In leadership, there's always room for growth. And I think just when you think you've seen it all, you haven't. You know. So to answer your question, I think it's twofold. I think, yes, I think innately I know, and part of it is just ownership and taking ownership, and knowing that you're called to a higher standard. I mean, there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that, you know, people don't see, right? Like, they don't see my husband praying over me because I'm like stressed about like what to do or where to go, and you know, and they don't see the prayers behind closed doors. They don't see the stress behind it. They don't see the conversations that when everyone's either enjoying their weekend, my mom and I are talking like, okay, XYZ, right? So that's one aspect. And then the other aspect is I've learned it's not just, okay, well, I'm in a leadership position and that's it. I think leadership is continual growth, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and cognitively. I think I'm always learning. I'm always learning just a different nugget. And sometimes, like when I'm talking to my mentor, and Nella is part of a men's discipleship group, and he'll tell me something, I'm like, whoa, that's good. Like, I actually needed to hear that. Yeah. And that's the word that I needed for right now. You know, and my dad, it was like, you know what, your best mentors are the ones in the Bible. Find someone to get mentored by under in the Bible. He's like, for me, and my dad was sharing this with me. I was on a walk with him. We were at the beach, and he goes, my mentors were Daniel in the Bible. He goes, I read a lot of Daniel because in that time I needed to learn.
And I love seeing of what you guys do here and being such a use to all these people in this facility. And it's funny because it could also be very grueling and demanding, whether it be physically, emotionally, spiritually. It's a lot. Business and companies, like it, on the outside, it seems so sexy. It seems so attractive where it's like, oh my God, you have a company. Oh my gosh, you're in a business. Oh my gosh. And it's family passed down. It's like, it's a lot of hard work, and it's passed down for a reason because it takes a lot to sustain it. 46 years, that is no joke. Yeah. That is no joke. That's approaching 50, the big 50. That is no joke. But I know you get so much fulfillment of being of use to people here. But what's probably the most grueling thing and the hardest thing about the work that you do?
Honestly, I don't know how to answer that because even when I think it's hard, I use it as a learning lesson. So I don't know. I honestly, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head because I think that comes from just my perspective, because I don't want anything to be hard or gruesome to the point where like I lose the passion for it. So even when things are hard or I feel like I'm in a rock and a hard place and I don't know how to navigate, and I think this is just more of like, and now that I'm talking about it, I'm realizing this is really my approach, is I take it as a learning lesson. Take it as either like a slap on the hand and move on, right? I can't pinpoint anything that is really gruesome and hard and difficult, because I try to and this is something that I had to train, because I've seen great leaders in my life, and I pick and choose what I like from them. Yeah. And I say, oh, I like the way that he managed this, but I didn't like his response to this. I like how she did this, but I didn't like when this happened. Yeah. This was her response. And so, and I'm a big observer. Yeah. I talk a lot, but I'm a big observer.
You know what's so funny? I love how you said, I don't know how to answer it, but you did. You did answer that. And it kind of gave me perspective too, where, you know, sometimes when we go through something, whether it's repetitive, we almost accumulate like this distaste for it. Therefore, it's like, let's not have distaste for it. Let's try to
change it.
Let's change it. Let's change our perspective on it. Yeah. How do we change our whole thought process and make it a little bit easier? So I love your response, because you didn't think you had a response to that question, but it was. And you almost gave me kind of a wake up call too, because I noticed that when things come up, I'm like, I got to deal with this again. Instead, I should change that sentence and be like, how do I make this go a little bit more smoothly?
I think sometimes as leaders, and I think we were taught this, and I learned this from my mom, which I feel like it applies in certain situations, but I think anytime like in leadership, it's always good to look at leadership first. And I always train myself, or I always train my managers, let's take a look here first. What did we do wrong? Because everything rises and falls on leadership. So what did I do wrong? Was it my communication to you? It could have just been anything, but I'm just using it as an example. Was it something you passing on the information? Was it, you know, and so, but I've also learned in leadership that sometimes it's not that, you know, sometimes it's more of like a practical answer where it's like, oh, well, this was the disconnect because the email didn't get sent, you know, but I think having that internal, like, let's take accountability here first, and then go through the proper investigation channels or system processes to kind of investigate what was wrong, or what was the challenging part, or what happened.
When you're, is hiring probably one of the toughest things you have to deal with?
Yes and no. And I say yes just because I think in this industry it's so hard to find people and to pay them a wage that is comfortable and livable. I mean, our funding comes from the States, so like, and you hear rumor of like budget cuts right now, so it's really unfortunate. But I like, if I had all the money in the world, I mean, like, if I had all the money in the world, our staff would definitely be well compensated, and quite frankly, we're just not there. And the honest truth about the business is that our funding comes from the state, it comes from the federal level. So anything that comes down from the federal level goes down to state, then regional, and then to a service provider like us. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
But hiring is not hard. It's actually one of my most favorite things to do because because I'm the one hiring. So my mom, just for disclaimer, the way that the company works is my mom does all the back end. She does all the finances. She does all making sure that like everything like runs smoothly, but I'm the forefront. So I'm director of operations. I'm here. I'm programming. I'm assistant. I'm wearing those hats, right?
Yeah.
I'm if someone has an issue, I'm counselor, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna put my counseling hat on, right? I'm and then I'm like a mentor, right?
Yeah.
So hiring is not hard. It's really fun because I get to see and filter out people. Are you a good fit for our company? Not only because you have the skill set, which is super important, but not mandatory.
Yeah.
How is your heart? Are you willing to work? And not willing to work, but are you good to work with?
Yeah.
Are you coachable? Are you willing? And then how is your heart of service? Because at the end of the day, we're providing a service. So you can have all the good skill sets, but if you're just doing it and you're not engaging with your individuals and you don't have a heart for your individuals, it matters. And so I look at those things. And of course, having the skill set is important and in many cases mandatory, but I look for character. Because character is one thing that you can't take away.
If you were to give some like valuable insight for me when it comes to bringing the right people in for me, what would those be?
Like now, like we have such a diverse group, and we're only gonna get more unique and diverse. We prayed and we fasted, and then we tithe.
Yeah.
We said, Lord, this is what we want to see. This is where our heart is. Lord, we trust that you're going to either make it happen or that we trust that it's going to be your will that is going to be done.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
It's kind of up to the Lord, Yeah. And honestly, I mean, I had shared with you about my assistant. When she first came, I didn't ask for her. I didn't pray for her. She just came. So either one or two things. Either you're going to tithe and pray over it, and you're going to know that, and you're going to trust that the Lord's going to do it. Or number two, he or she, whoever your staff is going to come at an appointed time. Because God knows.
Yeah.
He's the author and finisher. So he knows, right? And he knows what you're yearning for and crying about. So it's going to happen. James 1, we'll start at verse 2. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing. And then the verse goes on to talk about wisdom. But I think sometimes we just take that snippet of just verse 2 or verse 3, but reading the whole thing in its entirety. But let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing. So sometimes it's like God's timing is yes, but not right now.
I mean, God knows when we're ready, but God also knows when we're not ready. So that's why like there's a pause and there's a wait time here. And if it takes 2 years, if it takes a decade, so be it. It's like he'll give it to you when you're ready.
I think the hard part too is remaining steadfast in that waiting period. Because we're like, okay, well, like here's the goal, but then like, and I'm talking just like internally for me, like there's things where like I'm like, okay, God, like this is a goal, but along the way there's like God shows glimpses of like, yep, you're good. You're on the right track, but we're just not there yet.
Evergreen has been around obviously for 46 years, about to be 46 years.
Yeah.
So how does it stay on ground, on foot, and keep going? Because this can correlate to a lot of other companies. Because a lot of things, they start off hot in the beginning, and sometimes they just crumble as time goes on. But 46 years upcoming, that's a very big accomplishment in itself.
So I came on like fully on board 2021. Sorry. Like, well, I worked here like right out of high school, so 2014, but I was just working part-time, but like full-fledged, like I'd say 2020. 2020, then 2021, my grandma passed away. I can't give this answer without giving credit to my grandma, because she, for those 41 plus years that she was alive, if she was alive, and I would interpret for her, doing the small things right on a consistent basis. My grandma was a woman of principle, and so she was always the first one here, but the last one out. She, and my grandma was the type of person, you either loved her or you hated her. Because she just was that lady. She would like look at you and be like, Danielle, your performance, huh? But she was just so blunt.
I love it.
My Tagalog is like not the best, but like, you know, and I miss her. You know, like I miss her. Like, anak, I miss you. But I think it's doing the small things right on a consistent basis. So I think for her, if I can pull from my grandma's answer, I believe what made Evergreen so successful along the way is doing the small things right on a consistent basis, and then honoring principle. Like my grandma, for what it's worth, she was a woman of principle. So if you got to know her, and she was really rough around the edges. I mean, she was really sweet, but there's a lot of people that she just didn't clash with. And so I'd say that. I would say that. Another thing too is, and again, we're keeping with the theme of like, well, what makes Evergreen so successful? Really only by the grace of God. I mean, I really can't ponder that enough, because what is easily given can also be easily taken away. So I don't take for granted, and at the end of the day, it's stewardship. So my mom and I, and then our husbands, my dad and my husband, it's really intentional. It's really intentional. It's our time with the Lord outside. It's time of prayer. It's the time of fasting. It's everything else in between. It's the time behind the scenes. It's the sacrifices behind closed doors. It's the working when no one's working. Like I was up till like 12:30 last night just because I just wanted to get ahead. Yeah. You know, I have a vacation coming up, and I want to be intentionally present for my family, and so I don't want to disrespect our time that is so sacred for our family because I'm working. So I mean, of course, we're working 24/7. So of course, I'm still going to be working, but just in general, just making that intentional effort to say I'm present. Mom is here, honey, I'm here, babe, I'm here. Yeah. That's really important to me because my weekends are non-negotiables. When I'm present for my son's football games, that's non-negotiable. Phone is off. I'll handle it later. Yeah. I'll let the stress catch me up on Monday. Yeah. So I think success is doing the small things right on a consistent basis. I think success is also honoring principle, and success is who you are outside. You know, it's you can be a great leader, but if you're not a good husband, a good wife, a good mom outside of that, I'm really heavy on how you are in your home life is going to translate to how you work, right? So if I know that someone is having a bad day, I'm like, hey, how's everything going on at home? Like, are you okay? You know? So I know that there's no formulated answer, but if I can speak on the behalf of my family and just our faith, that really is it. It's only by the grace of God.
You know what I love about, say, like your family? It's a very powerful unit, and there's always like that term out there. It's like never mix family with business. For me, I would rather have it that way because my favorite place on earth is being in a room with my family. Do you know who Jerry Jones is?
No.
He's the Dallas Cowboys owner.
Okay.
So people hate him.
Okay.
And he showed as a cameo on a TV show quite recently. It was probably one of the best performances I've ever seen from somebody who doesn't involve themselves as being an actor. He told a story of like one of the reasons why he bought the Dallas Cowboys was because he wanted his kids to work beside him. So he was like, I thought I was helping them out by giving them an opportunity for their careers. But he was like, the greatest benefit that they didn't get the greatest benefit. It was me as a father, because I got to work with my kids. Like we were all under this machine and I got to see them flourish. She's like, I just wanted to be next to my kids every day. So for me, it's one of my deepest, darkest fears of my family separating. You know
I think Lonnie's like that now, because before she's like, oh, a free bird, and now she's like, I just want to be close to you guys. And then she told me, she's like, she came to my house, she goes, I don't want to be away from you. She's like, I don't want my kids to know you. I said, girl, you better not start a family without me being close.
Yeah.
Like I need to be very accessible to my nieces and nephews. I want to be that auntie like that's everyone's like Mama T.
Yes.
Like I want to go to Auntie Tiana's house. Like come on.
That whole sentence where, you know, building that machine so that your family could just be under the same roof, that would be the greatest gift. But at the end of the day, everybody has their own passions, their own pursuits. So it's like you cannot not let them do that.
Yeah.
What I love about this whole system here and this machine that you guys all built, you're all under one unit. You're all under one roof. And it's powerful because as time goes on, you guys were always a part of each other's journey.
Yeah.
Your son was just walking around in here right now. Like he's a part of it. He's walking around. He sees the day to day. Like when he gets a little bit older, he's going to be like, I was just always connected with my family, man. It's weird when I'm not connected with my family. You know, there's a lot of people now, they don't even want to be near their family.
Yeah. I can't relate.
Yeah.
You know, my husband is one of 9. And their family is just super connected. And even like with like my siblings, and going back to like the leadership question, like along earlier in the podcast, my siblings and we all have different lanes, different talents, and different gifts. I don't know. I mean, I'm the only one here at Evergreen, but there's also like other like we have the nonprofit, so that's something that we're doing all together as siblings with my husband. So that's super cool. That's actually this, by the way.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
But before I dive into that, because we all have different skills, and you know my sister. I mean, she's an author. She does media. I mean, she does a lot, and then she's a coach, and then she's anti-cis to my kids, and she's not anti. She's anti-cis. Like she's like, I never want to be called auntie. She's like, I want to be anti-cis. Which is so funny because Tua named her that because like he would always hear me call her sis, and then my dad and my dad's like really big on like respect, so anyone that's like above you is like an auntie or like an uncle. So Tua growing up was like auntie sis because he would hear me call my sister sis, so she just coined the term auntie sis, so she's auntie sis. But yes, so like all of us are in different stages in life, and I don't know if they're ever going to be a part of Evergreen, and I'm just being super honest, but the beautiful thing is that my parents instilled so many good wisdom nuggets, leadership skills, and qualities in us, and it's just, I think, within our DNA, like just innately, like we all have leadership skills, and Lonnie gets to take what my parents gave her and then flourish in her realm of influence. I'm here, but like my parents, I know I get to take his leadership skills and then bring it to his coffee shop, when that opens, and then to his realm of influence. And him and his girlfriend just started a life group. So they take that and they just started their life group like last Monday, and they had like, I think, a lot of people, you know, and then Junior, which many people know him by Puni, he takes his leadership skills and then he's on the UC Davis football team, you know, and we don't know where God's going to take him. Right. Yeah. So we all in a way are connected to each other. And I think that's like the beautiful thing is like when we do get together as a family, like it's just so fun. Yeah. Like it's so, like we did the JCPenney's photo shoot last year before Puni went to college, and it was hilarious. It was just so fun. And like I keep telling my siblings, because like I'm the only one married with kids. Like life looks different like when you're married with kids, because then like you have to go with your own family, like your own internal unit, and then our family as our siblings, they now become extended families. So like it's time for them, and then time for your in-laws, and then time for your social circles with like your friends, and then having a social life, whatever that looks like, right? Working out. Right? That's super important. So, yeah.
So I want to talk about that Camp MBP.
Yeah.
So
woo!
go into detail on that.
So my dad was a former law enforcement with San Mateo County Probation Department as a group supervisor 3. Then he owned 2 group homes before it took a big budget cut in 2008. So that's his background. And then he heard God's audible voice and said, "Hey, leave your job and I'll show you great and mighty things." And then he gave his life to the Lord, and then the rest is kind of history. But my dad's heart is really for youth. A lot of people know my dad currently because he coaches for Valley Christian. He used to coach for Monte Vista Christian down in Watsonville. But my dad, his heart is youth, and specifically young men. And when I prayed for someone like my dad, I mean, like, next time, and ladies, when you pray specifically. Because when I pray for someone like my dad, I literally got my dad, but in Tongan form. Because my husband, his heart is for youth, specifically young men. Yeah. He coaches for Milpitas Knights football team. They went 2 years. So this is my husband's 3rd season now. Yeah. He went 2 seasons where they made it all the way to playoffs. First year he made it to championship. They lost in the championship. Dang. This past year they made it to playoffs, and then they lost in the playoffs. But needless to say, like, when you pray, and I tell Lonnie this, when you pray for someone like Daddy, make sure it's specific. The good qualities that you want in Dad. Because I got the whole thing, but in song and form. Yes. But so Camp MVP, so mind, body, purpose. And so my dad back in the days, he partnered up with like many people during his tenure, but we're kind of rebranding, relaunching. I felt like the Lord just was like, you know what, just do it. And so again, adding on to the many hats that my sister knows of, this is just another hat. Mm-hmm. And so with Camp MVP, we're rebranding, relaunching. My husband is running a camp for youth. It's free. Yeah. It's free for ages 8 to 15. We partnered up with Battle Control. He's a good friend of my dad. So they're going to get leadership training. They're going to get mentorship. They're going to get counseling sessions. They're going to get self-defense. They're going to get strength and conditioning. It's going to be really well compassed. And I'm really excited because not only do you have a mesh of just old school and new school, like meaning like you have people like as young as my dad and Sir Greg to people like my sister who coaches youth volleyball, to my brother, to my husband, who are just young, energetic, passionate, and like we just want to see kids thrive, you know, like, and like we wish we had a mentor like this. And I think because my siblings were from Camp MP, they're Camp MP alumni, that this is not only their way to give back, but it's also a way for them to give youth someone relatable. Right? I think sometimes like we get so disconnected and like, you know, like for me, they call me old. Like, I'm not old. I'm just not relevant.
Well, if you're old, I'm old because we're the same age.
Sorry. Don't edit that. No, keep that in. No,
I'm keeping that in.
But like, yeah. So yeah, I'm all, how do we segue from that? I basically just called you old, huh? Yeah, no, I feel older than I am, but yeah. So Camp MVP. I mean, we have a really good team. I feel like we're pretty stacked. We got the grant through the city of San Jose, which I'm super grateful for. Yeah, I'm really excited about this. We're rebranding, we're relaunching. Mind, body, purpose. I think what better way than to go to a camp where you learn self-defense, you learn practical skills, you learn leadership. You're also moving your body, strength and conditioning. So you're training your mind, training your body, and then you're finding your purpose through all this, right? And I think that's one thing that like kids don't know because they don't know their identity. And I'm totally going off tangent here, but like, I mean, our son is going to the camp too, right? Yeah. So we're basing this off of like, as a parent, what would we want to see in a camp? And you're getting the whole Mayo Musika family. Yeah. I mean, we're here, right? We may not look super duper duper fit, but I mean, like I mean, my husband works. I mean, did you see his arms?
Yeah. Jacked.
That's what
Jack
attracted me
City.
to him.
Yeah. Like, look at me. I'm like a little frail little man.
You're so funny.
That's why I'm like, hey, bro, don't stand next to me.
You're so funny. Yeah, no, but and again, my husband is one of 9 siblings, and like all of his siblings are like athletic in some capacity. Like one of his brothers went to Alabama, another brother went to San Jose State, another one went to Idaho. My husband went to like a NAIA school. His youngest brother just got signed on to Akron University. His sister, one of his sisters, he has like 4 sisters. One of his sisters was All-American. I think she was like ranked. I don't know where she was ranked. Because I don't want to like misjudge and mess up, but Luisa Musika, like, but like my husband comes from like, he's a Milpitas native. So if you were to ask someone in Milpitas, do you know the Musika family? They know the Musika family. So yeah, so I am married into a good family.
All right, well, T, I have 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
Okay, I want to be very, very respectful of your time.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to put you on the hot seat right now. Okay.
Oh boy.
So
I feel
let's say right now that this is your podcast. Okay.
Okay.
And you have me on as a guest.
Yeah.
If you had a question and something that you were curious about me, what would it be?
Why do you do these podcasts, and how do you choose the people that you want on your podcast? Is there a connection between everyone? I mean, obviously they're high value discussions and they're mostly like entrepreneurs, but like how, why? Tell me, like what is your thought process?
You know, it's funny. A lot of it is word of mouth. Like, luckily, I mean, I am really good friends with your sister.
How did you guys get connected?
I invited Kalani on the podcast and we met on the show, and then we built a relationship every time she came on the podcast.
Cool.
So we were doing the show and then we started hanging out, like, oh, let's go get coffee. Let's go work out. Let's go. Every time it was a meetup, it was just like, let's enhance each other. You know, that's my friend groups now. Before, back in the day when it was young, it was just like, oh, let's go party. Oh, let's go see girls. But it's like, that's not the case now.
Yeah.
So I'm very, just like how I have high value discussions, I want to also have a high value network as well.
Yeah.
You know, that's very important.
Yeah.
But honestly, a lot of it is word of mouth. Like, I feel like your sister speaking so highly of you is a very quick reaction of me to reach out to you and be like, I want to get you on. Because I know you have insights, I know you have value, and you gave me an hour and 25 minutes of your time, and it was valuable. It was a lot of insights.
Amen.
And a lot of people are going to take that in, and especially me, I'm going to take it in. Like, this whole platform, this whole show just gives me a reason to reach out to somebody and be like, I want to talk to you. And they'd be like, well, what do you, like, who are you, this and that.
Yeah.
But when they look up the show, they see the production, they're like, oh,
Yeah.
kid, you don't mess around here. You take it very, very seriously.
Yeah.
I'm curious and I'm in. So just having this show alone, I am able to network and sit with these outliers of the world, people who are just being of service to the world.
So like, what have you learned? Like, I mean, and you've had multiple conversations with a variety of people, right? Yeah. I mean, I just skimmed through like your page last night just to kind of get an idea. Okay, like, what am I walking into? But like, you've interviewed someone like me who runs the day program to a fitness coach, like Coach Bobby, to the couple that I was watching yesterday. So you're tapping into many different like people and industries with different cultures, different backgrounds. But if there's one lesson that you've learned thus far, what have you learned in conversation with people in such a diverse background? And
I've noticed within all of them, even though they've kind of learned how to blend it all together, but it's like sacrifice. I feel like if you want a dramatic change when it comes to like somebody's life, for you personally and for your family, it requires a high level of sacrifice.
You know what? I have to say this because I have to, like, I'm saying all this, but I have to give credit to my husband. And I'll just share my testimony just real quick. After I had my firstborn, Tua, I was a single mom. I gave my life to the Lord and I said, okay, Lord, you know, if I'm meant to have a husband, cool. If not, it's fine. So I like would write in my journals and it would just be like whenever the Holy Spirit would just say like journal about him or like write about him. And so I would be like, Lord, whoever he is right now, just envelop him with your love. And like, I remember like there was moments where I would just tithe and I would be like, okay, Lord, I don't really have anything to tithe, but you know, name and declare your seed. And I would just say, okay, if I'm meant to have a husband, let it be so. And may he love you. I did that for like about like a year or two. Up into the date, I wrote in my journal. It was March 2020. I was writing in my journal over my husband. A month later, he asked me to be his girlfriend. So Nella and I met January. We met January 16, 17 because it was Tua's birthday. We met down in LA. Our younger brothers played football together for Valley Christian. So we met in January. He asked me to be his girlfriend in March. But before that, what caught my attention was he asked me to do the Acts challenge with him in February. And so we read 8 Acts a day. And I remember by like day 15, like it was kind of like, it was like the unveiling of like someone new. Like he was praying. And so we would take turns praying like in the beginning, like before we would read the word. And I remember him praying and I like looked up and like we were on FaceTime, you know, like we were FaceTime people. So like I see him on FaceTime and I was like, oh my gosh, I love the way he prays. He's hot. And then it was kind of like, oh my gosh, he's so hot. So then March hit, we, you know, but I was so like, you know, because I had to guard my son. And I would tell my dad, I really like him. And then my dad was like, you like him, just date him. And I was like, no, Dad, like I'm a single mom, like, you know, it's different. And he already had my dad's approval because my dad did some research. And so, and it was so funny because Nella and I, we ran in the same social circles. In the island community, it's super small and super tight, but we just never met each other.
Yeah.
So it was for an appointed time. And so he already had my dad's approval. He was like, dude, love him already. And so I brought him around, you know, and just as like a friend. And he proposed to me in July. I totally messed up. Bro, he said, babe, let's read our Proverbs a day in July. Because his plan was by July 30th, he wanted to propose Proverbs 31. Sorry, by day 31, he wanted to propose as Proverbs 31 wife. By day 10, I was like, it's kind of a lot. Kind of, you know, like I'm kind of busy with like work. Like, let's not. And so like I come to find out later, I was like, well, if you had told me you were gonna propose, I would have read my word with you. I was like, what? I was like, that's so unfair. But like, he asked my dad his blessing to date me, first of all. Then he asked my dad for my hand in marriage. My parents prayed over him. I remember that day too, because like I was administering a church phone call, and this was like during COVID. He comes down and he's crying, and like there's anointing oil on him, but I'm not thinking anything of it. And he's like, let's go to In-N-Out. And so like my parents started crying, and I was like, what the heck just happened? But I'm so sorry. I'm so oblivious to what's going on. I'm like what? Like In-N-Out, like you want to go to In-N-Out now? So I'm like, what the heck? So anyway, so he asked for my hand in marriage. We got married in September. That's only like 6 weeks to plan a wedding.
Yeah.
Get married in September. We buy our home in October. And then I found out that I'm pregnant with Ulfa. And then we finally move in December. Then Ulfa, my second born, comes out. Oh. That took sacrifice because he had to give up not only his identity, but he had to give up things that he was battling with. And he said, Lord, I have to surrender this all to you. And again, like we were talking, but like not really. So he found a mentor, because I was talking about mentors, right? Going back. So he found a mentor, and he got mentored under Pastor Dan Vera, I think CWC Church. Yeah. Really good guy. Him and his wife were really great. And they were with us at our wedding. They ordained. Yeah. So I wanted to mention that because just sacrifice, it reminded me of when talking about my husband's sacrifice, because when he shares his testimony, you'll hear he was praying for a wife, he was praying for kids, he was praying for this, and he was like, dude, like I'm getting to an age where like I don't know if I'm gonna find that. And his one simple sacrifice of giving up the world, giving up identity, giving up things so that he can walk with the Lord within a calendar year, everything that he was praying for checked off. Yes. So when you talk about sacrifice and obedience and what the Lord can do, that's why I tell everyone, like, dude, it's all it takes is just obedience.
I love that. That is beautiful. Yeah. Well, I mean, there is no way to end it like there, but I have to ask you one more question.
Okay. Yeah.
So your experience and, you know, you being a wife, a God-fearing woman, a mother, And all of those things are so very powerful. And I got to say, you are very successful at each and every one of those things. But how would you define success?
That's it. That's a good question. I don't think you can really measure success. Yeah, I don't think you can measure success. I think success is knowing who you are in the Lord, and knowing that you're fulfilling God's purpose, and knowing that everything else kind of unfolds from there. Because when you know your identity, and then you know that you're walking out God's purpose and God's will for your life. Because when I get to heaven, I want the Lord to say, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. Well done, my daughter Tiana." You know, and I think sometimes when we try to do things our way, and we wanting the penthouse and wanting to work corporate, but God's like, no, I have you here. I want you here. I think that to me is success. And I've seen people successful, and they're not making a lot out of and these are also business owners, and they're not making they're making it, but the point that I'm trying to make is that there's no big return on investment, but it's the impact that you make in people's lives. So success to me is it's a multifaceted answer. Success to me is, I had one of my managers go through the leadership training, and we've seen a change in just her demeanor, the way that she speaks, the way that she speaks about herself. And she wrote my mom and I email saying, "Thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this high road, lower leadership because of X, Y, and Z." Yeah. And she was on the verge of eviction, and the Lord blessed her family with a new home. So that to me is success. And that has nothing to do with the business. That has nothing to do with the service that we're providing here. But that to me is success, because it's my impact on someone. Success to me is one day seeing our individuals that we're serving here up in heaven, and they're dancing with no wheelchairs, talking, laughing, screaming, and that to me is success.
Yes.
Success is knowing that when I come home, I have a husband who I know is not cheating on me. Success is knowing that I have kids that love me and that they honor me. Now, not all the time, because kids are kids, but it's that, like, we have a family unit, and that to me is worth more than anything.
Honestly, I thank you for blessing the show. Truly, I knew, like, this took some time to set up. This took some time to get up.
We had to reschedule a few times.
It was worth the wait, though, and I really truly appreciate this. And just like how I said, like what we were talking about off air with you and your team, there are multiple projects to do with on you guys, and for me to be involved in this and to help out in any way I can, by God's grace, I'll be there. Whatever you guys need from me. But Tiana, thank you so much for blessing the show, and I cannot wait to do this again. God bless you.
I love you, bro. Thanks so much.
Thank you all for tuning in to today's episode. If you got a lot of value out of this, please do me a favor and support our channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. Make sure to hit that follow button on Spotify to stay updated with our latest episodes. And if you are listening on Apple Podcast, I would greatly appreciate it if you would leave a 5-star rating, followed by with a review. Again, thank you all for the support. Stay loving, stay hungry, and stay excellent.